Hi folks, last video we had a bit of fun with skeletal animations. For this one, I've handpicked a couple of blueprint nodes from this list here. It comes with a plugin which I felt would be quite useful for most game devs, namely nodes for checking user IPD, several ways of revealing active bindings and user hardware, as well as a couple of ways of implementing haptics. Alrighty, I guess let's get started. We'll start off with showing the user's IPD during runtime. So let me just try to look for event tick here. Just tick, and then let's click here. That brings me to event tick, and let's just add an execution pin here. Let's bring up the node, which is get user IPD. There, let's just bring this out here. Let's do a print string. And put that in there. All right, so just do a little bit of cleanup. File, compile, save, and then let's give this a whirl, okay? So you could see that I've got a 70 IPD. I'm just gonna move the slider. You could see that that changes, the IPD value changes as I move the slider on my index HMD. All right, so maybe what we can do as well is, let me just bring up VR view here so you could see exactly what's going on from there. Just trying to figure out a way to fit the two screens. All right, so you could see I'm moving the slider here. You could see the values coming out of Unreal, and you could see the values that's being shown within the headset right over there. All right, so that's how to show the IPD during runtime and be able to check it if the user has changed it during in-game. Alrighty. All right, so next let's just remove the IPD code that we've just created here. Remove that. Just do a bit of cleanup. Next, let's have a look at various ways of checking which active bindings are available that are coming in from the game, as well as which hardware the user is using. So for troubleshooting, we recommend using one node, which is show all SteamVR action origin. All right, so I'm just going to use the built-in Unreal input here. So I'm just going to use spacebar, make it easy. And if I click pressed here, all right, so if you do a spacebar, then we'll show all the VR action origins. So show within the HMD what active action bindings there are for the currently active controller. Alrighty, so let's give this a whirl. All right, so now if I press so I've got my hands here. If I press the spacebar, this will bring up within the HMD. As you can see, you would see something different from the actual Unreal Engine preview, but within the HMD, you could see the different actions that are active for this game. So if I press, for example, the right hand on the trackpad, it will show me what stuff is available for me. If I press grab right, like squeezing the grab here, you could see that it's all active. And you can close this using this window here. So that's how you would like, if you would like to do a bit of troubleshooting within HMD, you could have a hotkey or a chord, for example, a controller chord combination to bring up this, and then you can just close it like this. All right, so that's how to show the different action bindings that's currently active. Another way of doing this is a node called find SteamVR origin track device info. So it requires that the action be triggered first before you could actually see the action. So what we're gonna do is do settings, project settings, do engine input, and I'm just gonna have an action mapping here that's gonna show me device info for example, and I'm using the index trigger. I'm gonna do trigger click, right? So I'm gonna want to show the device info if I press the index controller trigger, at least for this demo, and just SteamVR. I'm gonna regenerate the action manifest now. I'm gonna regenerate the controller bindings. Please remember that this is a destructive operation, so it will overwrite any existing action manifest or controller bindings that you may have, all right? So then reload action manifest, and that's pretty much it. So from here, then we can do show device input, device info, and let's use the node show all. Oh, no, sorry. Let's use find SteamVR, which is going to be easier. Find SteamVR origin track device info. So this one. So this is the most convenient node to do this. So I'm going to use the show device info, right? So the same action from here. So I'm going to trigger the action first, and then this node will be able to show me the actual origin info. So if I split the struct spin, let's just move this a bit further here, get a bit more space. All right, actually, use up all this space. All right, so let's do an append, and let's do render controller name and add another pin here. Let's do this like really quickly. Let's do a print string like that. All right, so now what will happen is if I click the trigger, it will show me information about what I actually clicked, or what for that action show device info, what the device part that actually triggered it, as well as what kind of device that triggered it. All right, just gonna press the trigger a couple of times so you can see it's showing me trigger as well as the actual device that I'm using. So I'm using the Knuckles TV in this instance for this demo. All right, so that's one way of doing it. And as most of you who's watching this probably saying like, all right, that's useful, but the problem is now you have to actually have an input, have the actual input trigger the action before you can actually find information about it. Well, there's another node here. It's not really hidden, but yeah, somewhat not well documented, I guess. So I'm going to show you a way to actually show the device info as well as the action itself, similar to what this one does, but it doesn't require you to actually use to trigger the action first. All right, so let me just show you. So it might be easier to appreciate that way. I'm just going to remove this now. Let's use spacebar again. And what we need is actually, it's called get SteamVR origin localized name. Okay, so you have a couple of stuff that you need here. First, you'll need the SteamVR action. You can generate this using find SteamVR action. Like that, right? Position that there. Change the action name to, you can use any action name. So I'm just going to use the one that we just created, show device info. Action set, leave it to main. And now the localized part. So just drag it out like this, and then you should be able to create an array and choose what type of information you want to actually get out with it. So I'm just going to select all for here. And what this gives you is an actual string. So Let's just print this like that. And see what that does, okay? Click inside and then press the space bar, and you could see that for the action show device info, it's left hand index controller trigger. So you get all of that information. And for that node, you don't actually need to have run the action first. Now let's have a look at haptics. So it's a bit difficult to demo haptics on a video, but so I'm just going to show you the nodes that you can use, and I'm just going to remove that. All right, so there's this node, play SteamVR haptic feedback, and you should just select the hand left and then specify an frequency and an amplitude. And let me just do a 10-second here. Maybe I could put the controller right near the mouse. All right, so if I press the spacebar, I'm just gonna put this near the microphone. Right, so if I press the spacebar, that should trigger a haptic feedback on the left controller for around 10 seconds. So that's how to simply trigger a SteamVR haptic feedback. So this is already quite nice, right? You've got a lot of control for duration, frequency, as well as amplitude. How about if you want to get a little bit more fancy and do a bit of like haptic curves? So the plugin does support that. Plus you get the bonus of um, some unknown issue that we have. I forgot which engine version it is. I think it's 422, which is what I'm using now. So there's a known issue that this one won't work with the Oculus Touch controllers. So at least one game title reported it, and I did verify that it doesn't work. So, and that's something to do with the engine. So I'm not sure if that's been fixed recently. But what you can do is use the internal, the way you would normally use haptic curves within Unreal, and the plugin does support that. It actually just runs this in the back end, so that works for all controllers, including Oculus Touch. So, all right, so first let's create a folder and name it the same name as the project, SteamVR input plugin. Right, so that in, let's just create a haptic feedback effect curve, right? And just gonna be a bit lazy and add a couple of keys here. 1.0, is that. Obviously you could create your own curves as you see fit. But for this demo, I'm just gonna quickly do that. Here, let's just move this out. And what you'll need to do is get player controller, like so, and just play haptic feedback. Okay, sorry, play haptic effect. So that, left. And let's just have the asset that we created here. Pause and save, and if you hit play, press the spacebar, should be able to have the haptic effect right over there. Alrighty, so what we've done is we've went through checking the user IPD, which I've removed now, I believe. And we've looked at several ways of actually showing the device information with one way is just showing them within HMD. Another way is just showing them once you trigger the action itself. The other way is to use this node here, which allows you to show what the action is currently bound to, as well as the hardware itself, which is this input source here. Sorry, the controller type, and obviously, yeah, the input source in there. And a couple of ways as well of doing haptics. Alrighty, so I hope that's useful for you folks, and I'll see you on the next video.